Well, welcome everybody to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. We're so glad you're with us today to stay curious with three outstanding space photojournalists. I'm so pleased to have these two behind me in the museum. Joe Marino's over here. Joe, great to see you. Give me a
Good to
handshake
see
there,
you.
buddy. And Julian Leek. Julian's been on the Space Coast for over 50 years, photographing everything that is exciting, and you do a lot of Facebook news coverage here with cops and robbers and things like that. But he's got both these gentlemen have great stories to tell about their careers. But over here is our buddy Tom Usciak. Tom, how you doing, man? Good to see you from Pennsylvania, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He kicked his brother Mark to the curb so that he could be on Shuttlefest this weekend. And of course, this is Shuttlefest week. And you're going to hear these guys show some of their wonderful work, talk among themselves about the work. I'm going to go off camera here for most of it and just prod them into talking about their wonderful craft. We got to say hi to Marty Winkle running our Streamlabs board there. Marty, you picked a good green screen there. Whose picture is that? That's Joe's picture? What's the picture of, Joe?
It's actually a SpaceX time exposure from Complex 5.
Uh-huh.
So
Beautiful.
that's the pad where Shepard and Grissom launched from.
Great. Well, we chose that green screen over some silly thing like this, okay? That we have hanging around the museum here, just about, 100 autographs on there by astronauts. And, of course, this is Chris Callie's masterpiece, Inspiration, I believe you call that, right?
Touched by the Moon.
Touched by the Moon, okay. And, Marty, why don't you pan around there and say hi to Mr. Chris Callie. And we've got Julian's wife in here, Jean. And they're great partners on the Space Coast. There's there's Chris Callie here, and Jean. Hi, how you doing? And we are happy that you're here live at our American Space Museum to do Stay Curious.
Happy to be here.
Although
I thought Mark Usciak was going to be here.
Yeah, well, when they're a good photographer, you're working and don't have a chance to do things like this. So, let me get out of the scene here, guys, and we're going to rack up a couple pictures here and have a good time. Just, you guys, be yourselves there. I'm going to put up the first picture is of our wonderful, Marty, you ought to cue your mic there so that I can talk on that mic instead. Here's our Shuttlefest coin. We're so proud of this. Tim Gagnon's wonderful artwork. He's known as the Patch Guy and really turned into a beautiful work of art there that you can buy $10 at Shuttlefest. Here is the Shuttlefest official poster there. Astronaut John David Bartos, our featured astronaut. That's if you're in the Space Coast, you're going to hear stories about missions of Galileo, Ulysses, and the Astro 1 and 2 missions. And we're going to do a tribute to the late astronaut Sam Durrance, as well as Michael Lowndes was another astronaut, Astro 1, that passed away. So, yeah, that's what we're doing there. And wanted to give a plug to Steve Jokums. Can't wait to meet Steve. Steve has a spaceport up in Lake County, Illinois. And what he does is he does modeling. You modelers out there, how do you put the solar panels on the Skylab? Well, you get the decals from Lake County Spaceport and our good friend Steve Jokums. Look forward to seeing you, Steve, at Shuttlefest tonight. So, and he is a wonderful financial supporter of us, and you can be too just by going to our Facebook page and draining your bank account. We need bushel baskets full of $100 bills to keep this museum going. So, try to fill up a bushel basket full for us there. But let's kick it off with the guys here. Julian and Joe, I have some of their pictures mixed up, so they're going to fight about who actually took it. All right, depending how good it is.
The better ones are his.
Yeah. That's right. So Julian, this is Joe. This is one of yours.
Yes.
And I'm just going to make it nice and big. And we all love the Rocket Garden out at Kennedy Space Center.
It's one of my favorite places, actually. And this is one of the later space shuttle launches that occurred in the early afternoon. And luckily, the public affairs folks at the Visitors Center gave me approval to hop on top of the roof. I think it was the last time they've ever allowed that. And the image was actually taken with a remote camera. So it was firing on its own with an intervalometer. And just happened to get lucky. It all worked out for me.
Did got a big crowd there, it looks like,
Yeah.
and so forth, and geodesic domes that in there, and I'm trying to think.
The Delta's missing, but that was
Yeah.
much later on.
Yep, that's looking back towards the Debus Center there. That's become the in there. So we'll get another.
And this is another one of mine. So toward the end of the shuttle program, NASA provided greater access to the operations behind the shuttle processing. And this was a day that they lifted the shuttle to mate it with the external tank.
Now, how many photographers are standing around you taking that picture? Is this a media event?
It was a media event, but if I remember correctly, there were only about 3 or 4 photographers there at the time.
Right, so
Actually, they brought them in sets of 3.
Yeah.
Yes. Good. We'll look at. And there's the opposite end.
This is the opposite end. So this is after they mated the shuttle to the tank, just prior to rollout, and they provided us access. It's actually, if you stood up there, it's a lot further down than the image makes it seem. I kind of cropped it in or zoomed in on the image to give you an idea that what you're looking at there. Otherwise, the shuttle was a couple hundred feet below you.
My knees would be shaking.
And mine were. I'm not good on heights.
Okay. All right. And let's get a picture. I'll go again there.
Okay, now this is the shot that both Julian and I have been fighting over.
We don't know who
But
to
I can guarantee you it's my shot. But it is. I think it is my. If it's numbered a weird way, it's.
I think I might have taken that.
Yeah.
That could have been Chris's shot, actually. Yeah. Or maybe
It's,
a painting.
Yeah, it's 4.5.
Yeah, that
so,
was mine.
That's it.
Yeah.
In there.
So again, processing. The shuttle was rolled out to the pad, and we were given access to the rotating service structure, and were able to get that shot.
This is one of Julian's, I think.
No, that's
Oh,
also one
okay.
of mine.
All right.
I'm so sorry.
No.
I'd like to give Julian more of a chance here, but
Yeah. Well, we have it mixed up. It's my fault.
That's
I had it
okay.
mixed up by numbering.
No
So,
problem. Yeah, it's just
what a classic shot that
the
is
rollout.
on the VAB.
Yeah, just it was just a magical experience because you can't really get scale when you're looking at something like this. The vehicle is so big. It's just awe-inspiring that, you know, in a couple of weeks from that moment, that whole stack was going to be flying.
Well, night has to add its own
Yeah,
aura to the whole
Yep.
thing too.
exactly.
And I encourage Tom and Julian and Joe to talk about each other's work here in a positive way. We don't want to have any fights start
Only a
here.
positive way.
Yeah.
That's an excellent thought.
Was that film or digital?
That was digital.
okay.
Yeah.
When did
This was, I believe, this was FCS 134.
okay.
There's nothing there to compare size to size.
Yeah, you don't see a person standing
You,
there.
you see a little person like this, but
Yeah.
and I believe, Joe, if it was where you took that from, wasn't there another walkway, catwalk just in front of you had to lean to?
Yeah,
And,
But-
yeah.
but actually, I mounted the camera up on the railing.
Okay, you.
Because I didn't want to lean over. Because I would have been sweating more than I'm sweating now, actually. But no, so yeah, that was a shot. Plus, I wanted to stabilize the camera because trying to handhold the camera in a situation like that, it's a lot darker than the image makes.
And
Yeah.
it's just another experience to be in the VAB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
it is absolutely like Tom's going to go. It's overwhelming to see how far down it is and how far up it is.
and a spaceship inside of it.
Yes.
A shot like that is very, I mean, it shows you one of the advantages in the digital world over film. The color balance on that is almost exactly what your eye would see. If
Yeah.
back in film days, there would be parts in there that are greenish and they're yellow. The orbiter might be balanced pretty well, but the other things wouldn't be. And digital with different white balances and things like that you can do, you can bring the color almost to what the eye sees, and that makes that shot exceptional.
And
It
because
does.
something else, when they put lighting in there, like you said, with white balance, what you see a lot of times is not what you get. Big
Well, I
difference.
see Doug Forrest is watching from Los Angeles. Mark Usciak's telling Callie to mind his own business. William Whiting, we miss you, William. Wish you were here for Shuttle Fest. And Tom Celentano
Hi, Marky.
is up there. So thank you. Tom says great photos, and he's not even seen Tom Usciak's photos yet. So.
Or Julian's.
Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up, and how? Are you a Canon or Nikon man?
I've been Nikon.
Yeah,
For,
right.
I have a saying about Nikon. When people say
well,
what,
don't say it.
no, it's a good one.
Okay, go ahead.
Is people say what camera do you use, and I said it depends which one you were born with, because if somebody hands you a Nikon, you're a Nikon person from there out. If somebody hands you a Canon, you're a Canon. Reason being, you could not afford to change once you start.
Well, how about those Pentax K1000s out there by
don't know anything about them.
Oh, okay. That was
Never
the
had one.
classic college one in there. But Joe, where'd you grow up?
I was, in New York, New York City, Middle Village, actually.
Wow.
So a small town. At least when I grew up, it was a small town. It isn't now, but yeah, I lived there, then moved to various places. Houston, Charlotte, Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, and now Vieira.
Yeah, okay, great. We'll talk more about his career there as a safari photographer here in a little bit. You're well known for that. Julian, how about you? Where'd you grow up, and how did you get to Space
Actually,
Coast?
we ended up. My mother worked for a news outlet in Connecticut, and I ended up coming to New York City on 62nd Street, and stayed there for 6 or 7 months. Then went out straight to California and Hollywood, and then to Houston, and then to Brevard County.
That's interesting that you guys got New York City backgrounds. I had 3 years of my misspent youth in my 20s in Manhattan, working as a photographer for Newsweek and a stringer for whoever let me string for them.
Yeah.
Sports Illustrated, and I did a lot of Associated Press work. But it was all Tri-X film,
Yeah.
developing black and white film, and going to Madison Square Garden on wrestling night and watching all those little old ladies yell at the wrestlers. That's what the photo they wanted. So, Tommy, how about you? Tell us. You've been on our show many times, but those new to us, and we know there's new people every day that watch Stay Curious. Where'd you grow up, and what'd you do in photography?
Well, I'm from the land of the Pennsylvania Dutch and the home of the motion picture Harrison Ford's Witness that was filmed right in my hometown, and had a business in Lancaster at the time, and we processed film for that movie, publicity film. Born and raised in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, lived there my whole life. Actually, I live now in Millersville, which is a little suburb of Lancaster. It would be like Titusville to Sharps, or
Right.
something like that.
Up in Mims, where we had dinner.
Or up in Mims, yeah. It's really close, so I'm still a Lancaster County boy.
Now, you sure you want Chris Callie to know where you live? Or?
Well, he knows where I live. He was at my house the other day.
Oh, okay.
And he was...
And is Vicky checking the silver?
Oh,
And everything?
no, since Mark Usciak wasn't carrying my artwork down for Shuttle Fest, I had to get Tom to do it.
That's right.
Actually, Chris took to my dogs, and they took to him, so that's a good thing. But no, I'm a Pennsylvania boy. I have the disadvantage here with these guys. They're 9 miles away, some approximately from where they take their pictures, and I'm 900. So I didn't get here as much as they did, but I enjoyed every minute that I was down here and active, and I got to meet and work with some of the, best guys that you'd ever want to know.
Well, we got 3 of them here. This is a great Stay Curious program. A real treat to have all 3 of you here, isn't it, Marty? Tom Celentano said he had a Pentax K1000. He brought the many trips on the Space Coast here. That was a hardy telescope for sure. We got Carlton Bailey wondering if we had a lens wide enough for all 3 of our guests.
That's why he's not here.
That's why he wasn't invited.
They couldn't.
No, he's busy with a memorabilia show of his own this weekend. So hope you do good at the Godzilla festival there at the Melbourne Comic-Con there.
Excellent
We
work in
missed
the
you this
Delta
weekend, but we know
TV.
you're busy. So, well, let's look at some of these beautiful pictures now that we've set up these guys here. There's one that caught my eye of yours.
This
Joe.
is Artemis at sunrise. So this was one of those things where we really weren't being provided any access at all, and I kept bugging NASA to somehow work on a photo op for us. So at that time there were only 2 photographers there. It was myself and the photographer from Florida Today that went out to shoot this.
Uh-huh.
It was pretty spectacular.
Which one was that?
Craig Bailey.
Craig Bailey.
Yeah.
Craig Bailey. No Tim Short also.
No. Just Craig and I shot it.
I said no Tim. We want to get them on the stage.
Sure.
Too. There's our beautiful green screen backdrop there.
Yeah, this one, I will say that I had this in my mind to do for many years. As you can imagine, getting access for launches like this is difficult. They finally approved it. But this was last year, and I tried to shoot it about the same time as Alan Shepard's launch.
Huh.
So this was I think it was last May.
This is interesting. This is pad 26. No, pad
Pad 5.
5. Pad 5.
And actually,
Some people think this is the badging station rocket, but it's not.
No, this is
This
the
is the
one
one
on
on the
pad.
property there.
Yeah, and
First
actually,
glance,
Alan
you'd say,
Shepard's
that's the
daughter,
badging station.
I sent that. She called me and asked me if I would send one to her, so I sent her a 11 by 14.
Joe,
Yeah.
explain people who don't know. We know, but the image to the right, the blue.
Yeah, the launch happened about a little after 5 o'clock in the morning, and so once the rocket reached a certain altitude, the sun was illuminating the plume, the exhaust of the rocket.
Right.
So
Second stage, first
Yeah.
stage cutoff, and the
Yeah.
first stage is coming back. That's
Yep.
what causes that.
yeah, that was the plume from the second stage. So
Star, you got some star trails in there.
yeah. And this one here, I'm sorry, Julian.
No, it's okay.
I wish they'd put your pictures up.
The Navajo, never go Navajo.
Yeah, well, another one of those things that I was looking to try to do for a number of years, and I was actually up in Jacksonville shooting the Jaguars one Sunday, and they were getting ready to launch it, so I raced back down to Sands or Gate 1 and popped my camera up and got that image.
And that has been fully restored by the Air Force.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it's a Navajo,
Mhm.
and the joke was never go Navajo,
Mhm.
but it was testing 2 rockets, one that would ferry another rocket up to space in the 50s and 60s.
Mhm.
You use a star filter, huh? That's a nice touch.
No,
No.
I did not.
That's
Actually,
F-22 or 32?
F-22, yeah,
Okay.
and just left it open for about 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's a classic shot that
Yeah.
Carlton Bailey pioneered, but what a gorgeous
Yeah, I when
Falcon
they
Heavy, right?
that's a Falcon Heavy, and when they're launching around full moon time, and it's where I think we can find a line to where we can get an image like this. So yeah, there were about 6 photographers out in the street that night.
There's an app
Hoping.
for that, correct? Now there's an
There is
application
an app.
that you can.
I have no idea what the app is. I use the photographer's ephemeris, which only gives you line of sight on the ground.
Uh-huh.
And then the rest of it, I mean, there were a bunch of us talking about where that may cross the moon. We were actually all in Titusville, just north of 405, in the subdivision.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So you, a regular person would think, well, you're at a rocket site with the laboratory. You're in some subdivision because that's where the moon and the rocket was going to line up.
was going to line up. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yep.
That bears in mind the photographer's code. Get the photograph and ask for forgiveness later.
Yep.
All right.
What was the focal length on that show? Remember?
Oh my goodness. That one there was shot with my 600. 600.
600?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right, Mark. Go ahead, Marty. Why don't you talk there a second? You're closer. Can you read that? Mark Usciak's got a thing here to say. Go ahead, Marty.
A little known fact, all of us current space shooters owe Joe a big deal of gratitude for going to bat for the rest of us in getting us other guys remote camera. Is this something?
Remote camera
Access?
access sites.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah.
Let's do the job.
He's shrugging his shoulders
Just-
there, but
All I
that's
did was
great.
ask.
That's great. You know, it's a rare camaraderie of friends, of photographers. They compete with each other for the bragging rights to the best shot, but then most of them I've been around will share their tips.
It all comes down to access.
Yeah.
If you don't give us access, we're not getting the
We're
picture.
not going to get the picture.
If you
Right.
want the publicity, you've got to give us access.
Well, let's get through more of these pictures here. We got
Oh, okay. So UPI was provided an exclusive opportunity to photograph the last Delta IV Heavy by allowing us into the pad area for remotes. And that's what that is.
so that is last week's photograph.
That is last week's photograph.
shot there.
Yeah.
That is so close and awesome.
Yeah.
Just like 3 farm silos headed up into space
Yeah,
up there.
exactly.
Now, a lot of
Uh,
times, putting cameras where Joe, we all have put them in that area. And unless everything goes exactly right with the thrust, one they had stayed on the pad about 5 seconds more
Mhm.
than allowed. Cameras were in the fence. There were bunches of pieces of concrete flying through the air, hitting cameras. One sign came flying off and actually cut the leg of a tripod completely off. It looked like Odd Job. It was gone.
Like Odd Job on 007 with this derby.
Yeah.
What about some bad stories about losing equipment?
There's plenty.
You all have
There's
plenty
plenty
of them?
out there. Normally, using common sense and not being daft and the ego to get the job, like putting a GoPro at the end of a rocket launch or test rocket launch in Utah, where the camera just melted.
Oh, wow.
But the person who did it was warned not to do it. But
Huh.
not a pretty shot.
No.
Huh.
I do have one. Actually, it's the same Delta IV Heavy. It was a night launch. And I remember after the launch, I went out and I was walking in a circle where I thought I'd placed the camera, literally. And then I heard someone say, "Hey, Joe, is this yours?" And about 250 feet down the road was this pile of plexiglass, which was at the time my box, was just in shards. And then kudos to Nikon. Actually, that's why I'm a Nikon shooter. The camera was a shamble. It was a Nikon at the time, a D3, which was top of the line at the time.
For about 6 months.
Yeah. And then, but anyway, I sent it to Nikon and I told them what happened. And they came back to me and said, "We really love the story. We're going to fix your camera for free."
That's awesome.
It's
And I
very,
thought that was really
he
cool.
was very lucky to have it
Yeah, that's
fixable
lucky.
because we've
Yeah.
seen camera lenses actually ripped off the body, and we all know how it is to put a camera lens on there.
Yeah.
But they found them in the chain link fence,
My gosh.
just for lens and the body somewhere else.
Great stories from some excellent photographers here. Let's look at some more of Joe's work, or there's Julian's.
That's me. Got my name on this.
Yeah.
No, actually, that
there's
one,
a great man that
Yes.
passed away that a lot of Americans owe a lot to for our freedom. I guarantee you that.
I
Colonel Tom Stafford.
that one is at the opening of the Heroes and Legends. And
We've used that photograph a lot on his birthday and stuff.
Oh,
He
yeah.
passed away at
Yeah.
age 91, was he? And I think if all of us in the room met him,
he lived in Melbourne.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great guy.
That's my classic. That's the one that actually Tom actually made me a print of that because I couldn't find it done locally.
Oh, Tom told me that story last night
Yeah,
about the
Tom-
negative that you had.
Yeah,
that-
Tom made that
Would-
one up. I've got it on the wall. I think it's 16 by 20.
16 by
Like
20.
your fine artwork and Mark's assistance, I'm sure. That was not the best one because it had the photo credit, but it was last night put together stuff fast, and those were the days.
So which one of Lunar Modules was in
That
there?
was
Marty's Lunar Modules. What-
15.
That's 15?
Yes.
So that'd be number 10, LM10, Marty. 9's on display. Yeah, LM10.
And that's when you walk right out of the VAB and walk along it as it went down the crawlaway.
So that's 1971, folks, for all of you young timers out there. And you do a lot for the community, Julian. I see you on Facebook. You do a lot of freelance work and just covering the day-to-day things.
I do 99% of my work is freelance, and this was right outside my house where we just walk across the street, put the tripod up, and just let it go.
Now, what did the photographers call that photograph?
That,
The streak shot. The
I-
streak shot.
I call it a postcard. But
Yeah, you call it a postcard.
No, it
You
is.
call it money in the bank.
It's a street
Postcard,
shot.
yeah. And yeah, that makes a great postcard. Yeah, we call that the streak shot, and we keep our clothes on while doing it.
That's right.
Right, Tom?
Right.
Tell
Do you
us the
know-
technique of that.
Well, I was going to ask, like, all these street shots, are they cropped, or do you guys know exactly where to aim the camera? Is that
On-
an app too? Or?
On mine, seeing as the pier is right in front of the house, I know to stand here with that tree or here for that post
Okay,
for whichever launch.
okay,
And that one was right at the beginning of the Melbourne Beach Pier, and I know exactly where it comes up. And what gets you there is you don't need to hit the shutter for about 5 seconds after liftoff
okay.
because you won't see it.
Right.
But the sky starts to glow.
And
that
that's a
was-
long exposure
was-
that's taken with a low ISO,
Yes,
like
20,
100,
20
and a high f-stop too, like a 22 f-stop.
20 22.
Not as easy as it looks, and it took me a while to master it. A few flubs like all of us did, but Melbourne Beach, by the way, put a plug in for them. Great beach, good community. I frequented those beaches a lot. There's a familiar site around.
That's a
Well,
Falcon
once in a
Heavy.
while we see that
That's
site.
a heavy.
Thanks. Whose is that one?
Mine.
Uh-huh.
That was the first heavy.
Oh, so that's got the
Okay.
Tesla Roadster on
Yes.
it there.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was the one where nothing's going to survive, and that's another one where we had to come up with SpaceX to find locations where we could get a picture of the 3 boosters together, not on the side like they normally have us. So
Yeah.
Did they resist that site at first, or were they pretty open with it?
they resist everything at first. You just have to keep. That one was a pure luck photograph because we were just passing it where they were raising it.
Yeah, that's always interesting to see that heavy weight
Mm-hmm.
with the strong back, after appropriately named,
Yeah.
to lift it all up there. The Delta 4, that strong back was just that was an unbelievable piece of thing there. So
That's in the visitor center. That one's a couple of years old, but it was before they moved the LEM over. But it was a classic Apollo lying on its side.
yes, and we love going out there.
That one is one of my classic ones, and that's because that's from a 35mm negative, black and white negative. In the background, it's not, you can probably see the VAB is straight in the back, and the LUT is parked, and that was taken above the launch escape system on Apollo 16, I believe.
But what you're not giving away is, where are you, Julian?
I'm
My
up-
God, you don't
I'm up
have flubber on your feet and
above
floating
the-
around up there.
above the crane section.
And
Above-
that's
above-
not many people got
No,
to
no,
take that photograph.
I don't think
right?
anybody has been up there since. Even when I took it, one of the NASA PIOs says, "Oh, you couldn't have done that. Safety would never let you." Until I went in next day with the photograph. We had a
George-
lot more access, and you got to remember that is moving on the crawler out to the pad. You're up there and you are moving like being on a boat.
Why black and white, not color?
And we didn't shoot black and white back then. They gave you, I got 2 rolls of film a day from the newspaper, and color wasn't overboard at the time. So you're shooting something, you better have it black and white because they couldn't use.
What paper was that?
This one, I think I was doing some work for Stringer for the Miami Herald.
Yeah. You shooters out there today don't understand. You had a roll of film with 24 exposures on it, and usually have a roll around here somewhere just to emphasize it. But 24 exposures on a roll, not 250. Blah 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 blah, and pull the best one out.
Exactly.
And they're shaking yes. We're kind of frustrated with the photographers today. But excellent shot.
My question always is on that when somebody does, how many pictures are you going to use?
Yes,
One. So is the first one better or the last one? Probably the first 5 you're going to look at, you're going to pick one.
Yeah. Whichever ones their eyes are open in.
That's right. Yes. That's Apollo 17. Night launch.
December 1972.
Yep.
Night launch. That's very good of the rocket there.
Yep.
That was the
balance.
land launch.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
That's good. One of the toughest things to do for night launches, and I have one in my presentation too, is once it gets up there, you want to do everything you can to keep the top of the rocket
Yes.
illuminated, so
Yeah.
it doesn't go up so high and then it turns to nothing. You don't see the tip of it.
I've
And,
always said when they put the floodlights on in the days when they had floodlights, is to put one above the rocket, so the rocket actually flies into the light. Nobody followed that suggestion.
Well, it was interesting with the space shuttle with night launches, because I'd always use the same exposure when I was out shooting a night launch or remotes, and it seems to me that the direction of the wind, if that exhaust cloud, the steam cloud from the main engines comes out and hangs here, when it lifts off, that serves as a reflector
Yes.
and throws light up on the rocket.
Yeah.
Because I've had other ones where the steam went either to the right or left, and once it gets up, the tank being dark disappears, and you have it's just hard to see. So it's really it's really the way the wind blows is a way to put it.
Yep, that's how you get it. This picture, which disappeared, that picture was the opening day of Third Century America. That'd be 1976. And the aircraft is a Ju-52 German bomber.
That
Which-
you're in taking
Yes.
the picture.
Yes.
Wow.
Which took a lot of finagling with NASA. There's an LUT right outside the VAB. And that plane belonged to Martin Caden, who wrote The $6 Million Man and Cyborg television series.
Confederate Air Force.
No,
Was that-
no.
was that him?
Martin, what's his last name?
Caden.
Caden.
Hayden, yeah. We're
The-
efforting him to be on our show.
You won't, because you've got to dig him up out of the grave, because he died. He died
Oh,
10
really?
years ago or something like that. That
Somebody's writing a documentary about him. That's what it
yes,
is.
they are.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that
We don't want to dig up any old bones. do we, Marty?
that aircraft was not part of the Confederate Air Force.
Okay.
In Florida, we had a wing of the Confederate Air Force, who I was a member of, and the Confederate Air Force out in Texas wanted to control everything. We will give you money to let you restore your own aircraft, but we want to own it. So that didn't go too well with the Florida wing. So what they ended up doing was just getting away from the Confederate Air Force and started the Valiant Air Command. If you look at the original people who started the Valiant Air Command, you'll see some high-powered names in there. That aircraft was privately owned all the time.
Wow, interesting. What a
But
great shot.
we got permission to fly around the VAB, and a lot of shock and awe on that one. Big old tri-motor flying around the VAB.
Well, like we say, there's 1,000 words to every photograph, and we're enjoying sharing these photographs. There's certainly a few words to be said about this one.
That one was
That's STS-2.
that was the
Correct.
boilerplate. That was the boilerplate model
Oh,
that
okay.
could go out to the pad, and that is taken from the top of the VAB. When the VAB had a little tiny catwalk out, which they let one person go on a time. They've done away with that. Joe wouldn't like that out there at all.
No.
So,
But I would still do it.
that's Enterprise.
Yes.
That'd be
Yes,
Enterprise
yes, the
there.
boilerplate model, yes.
So this is like the first time ever anyone's ever taken photos
Yes.
of the shuttle
Stacked. Yes.
leaving the VAB.
Yes.
So that'd have been 1980, if April 12th, 81.
Yeah,
is the
some
first-
right in there.
Today's the anniversary.
Yeah, today's the
Today be the anniversary of
Yeah.
it. All right. Yeah. Yeah, we that's
And
why
that-
we have Shuttle Fest around the 12th.
Well,
is,
Now that is the first time the shuttle arrived at Kennedy Space Center, and that's on the NASA 905 American Airlines colored 747, and that's when they said the first day when they flew it in and landing.
and everybody's going,
Well-
where'd the tiles go?
Well, what happened on that was when it came in, and as Deke Slayton, who never did as he was told, was flying the T-38 chase plane, and when she came in, she was landing nice and really slow, even though it's going fast, until Dick Slayton came right alongside, about 30 feet off the deck, came alongside and went straight up in the air, and did about 3 barrel rolls going up.
You have a question, Gene?
No, I'm prompting him.
Oh, okay.
I was there and saw it.
Oh, okay.
Gene
She's
was
being a wife.
yeah,
Gene's the Julian Leek historian.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Take
It-
her
It
everywhere.
was such a neat thing to see Dick Slayton do that,
Huh?
and then climb out of the T-38 in his cowboy.
Ah,
Is that right?
Yeah.
In fact, I did post online the other day because I found it. Is Deke Slayton, Crippen, Young, NASA administrators on the podium giving a talk after this landing.
Yeah. Well, we need to post some of that on Facebook, but we're so busy with Shuttle Fest that haven't paid much attention to that.
Oh,
but
we've
this
got
is the.
we've got plenty for you to post between the three of us.
That's right. You certainly do. There's Endeavor.
That's out in Los Angeles. When I got to sit in Endeavor, the last person to sit in the seat before they closed the doors, and then got flown out to California to take the whole series of it, going through the streets of LA in the very early hours in the morning.
I think we have some of this.
Yeah, now that's actually the tank. And we had to fly out again when they took the tank and brought it into Marina del Rey, and then again walked out through the streets to the California Science Center. That's a solid rocket booster at KSC. And then that we're going when they moved one of the shuttles. This one is Enterprise where did Enterprise?
Is this to the New
New York.
Orleans Fair?
No, but no.
Is
Oh,
it
okay.
New York?
Yes, this one went to New York.
Oh,
that's
what's going
correct.
to New York?
This one went to
on the
New York, yes.
Intrepid
Yes.
up there. You seen it, Joe, up there in New York?
From a distance. Yeah. Yeah.
Marty, you were just up there, weren't you?
Going up back.
Oh, going up.
Who shuts out?
I think that's Julian's
Okay.
picture.
Nice wide angle.
Yeah, that was 10 millimeter. And tell you what, you had to stretch it 10 millimeters to get it. It was it's a lot in there.
Of course, the big
Going out on the crawler.
crawler, that was our Shuttle Fest last year, was a
Was it crawl-
documentary on the crawler. Everyone said it was like being on a submarine.
Oh, it is.
With,
We have been inside of it in the control room, and in the steering rooms when nobody's in it, obviously. But we got to see all the generators and the computer system that made it work years ago is about a square block, and now it's down to one 10 by 10 room.
Interesting. Of course, there's another crawler view. We have about 1/8 of a tread or 1/4 of a tread here in
Yeah.
the museum there. So there's They weigh a bunch there. All right, let me go back this way. Oh, that was. Go.
Night launch or night setup for shuttle.
Yeah, is that a tough exposure? That looks like the puzzle that was been out for years. on it.
Probably.
Is that that's a hard exposure to balance because the xenon lights?
Yes, yes. Every lighting system is different, and the exposure is different. And we don't use automatic. We get to know what they are. That was the first Falcon 9 booster to come back to the Kennedy Space Center.
Oh, is it? So that's the first one that landed and
First
come
one that
back
landed and then was transported back.
That was a few, like 3 short years ago. And they've landed 300 now.
Yes.
Safely.
Safely.
300
Yes.
times they brought back.
Yep.
And I think one's up to 19
Yes,
flights.
it was.
Has it done 20 yet?
That one was after they actually removed it from the barge at the port before it was all built up in the back, as you
Now, where are you at for that photograph?
helicopter.
Oh, you're on a helicopter?
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes you just have
Familiar
to,
sight to those of you that dine out at Port Canaveral,
Some-
seeing
some of those you just have to go ahead and pay the money and to get the shot.
yeah. Is that with Mark, the guy at the helicopter business out there? I know a guy that does
Yes,
that.
right at the port.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yellow helicopters.
Yes. And
There's your last
that's
hurrah, huh?
last week's
Are you
heavy.
sure that's not Carlton Bailey's picture?
Nope. Where's
Okay.
Carlton Bailey hiding?
All right.
You don't see
You're standing beside him.
you
I
don't see
think.
Godzilla on that.
You know, I don't see any Godzillas anywhere. No, I don't. There's another.
That's actually out in Utah. That's the solid rocket booster. That was in the test stand sideways, and then next morning they fired it up. We flew out for that one. It's quite a thing to see on the
CB
side.
says tonight's Falcon is a first flight for the booster.
Okay,
There is a 9:22 flight today.
Yep.
And
Was that the one you were out there with booster firing with Steve and Mark?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
Mark. Yes, yeah, Mark. Yeah, we all went out there.
on
that's
the,
a-
you're
that's a-
talking about the
That one.
that one there.
No, yeah, that one.
That.
Yeah, we were on Utah.
Yeah, you fans that aren't a photographer, Julian, have camera will travel, right? You
Oh,
and
yeah.
Joe,
Yes,
as long as there's a buck to be made,
And-
of course.
and
there-
now,
and,
not years ago, we still travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was
who were some of your clients that Tom? You worked for Aviation Week, and a lot of your places that wanted your photos don't exist anymore.
Oh yeah.
Aviation Space Magazine it was a magazine out of Washington, Ad Astra, which is the National Space Society, Space World.
And
different
they've
ones.
all kind of disappeared, but yeah, that's kind of there's other photographers out there for a test
Yeah.
of a solid rocket.
I'm actually on the let's see who won. Oh, when the shuttle, Aviation Week, there was one photographer and myself. Well, actually, then we call it taking the heart out of the shuttle, and that's when they take the APU out of there. It is dead after that, and it's like bringing somebody's heart out.
Huh.
4 people carrying it and putting it on a trolley to send it to the museum or whatever they did.
Auxiliary power
Yeah,
unit. that
APF,
supplies
and there
the-
were just 2 of us there for that inside the bay when they did it.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we were looking at your shot of the. Is that the first Falcon Heavy?
Yes, that was the first one. Yes,
How many they've launched? 6,
up to
8.
6 now, I believe.
They were like
Could be
6
8.
of them now.
I missed a couple.
I don't know.
And there's your
It's
postcard.
another
shot.
one of the dock area. That is that wasn't this one. That was a past launch.
Things look different in black and white.
Oh, yeah.
How do you make that choice?
It depends a lot of the times on the customer. One of the main things with me was in the beginning, I had a dark room in the house because I had to get stuff out. You did to whoever it was, just say the Miami Herald. We had a deal with the we had a see where the bus station in Melbourne and the airport and couriers. And you'd go to the airport with a bright orange envelope, and they knew it was from Miami Herald. You didn't have to put a name on it or anything. Just handed them to, and it would go on a plane, and somebody would pick it up, either take the photographs I'd done or take the film. That was the annoying part, because they'd take the film, and very rarely did they send it back.
Yeah.
So I lost a lot of negative stuff because of them doing that. But most of the time, had enough time to go home in the dark room, print them up, let them dry, take them over for the 10 o'clock plane, and off you go.
There you go.
But in those days, the customer wanted black and white. The color
Good
was a
stuff.
different matter.
Well, we're enjoying this conversation with three wonderful photographers. All have made their mark in their respective business there. And we've got Joe Marino there on left to right's Tom Usciak, Julian Leek in the middle, and Joe Marino. You guys are doing great here. We're going to get to some of Tommy's pictures in a minute. We're just getting at the end of Julian's here. There's a familiar sight that we love seeing, having a sandwich out there at
Yep.
Spaceport.
When it comes back in.
And
And if you see in the background of that, it's all built up now.
yeah, it is.
They
It
got,
is.
They've got two mobile cranes now. That's SpaceX. No, I'm sorry, that's Atlas. Atlas from top of the VAB.
Okay. So that's which pad? 40? 1?
41.
41. Oh, we got go forward there. Another angle.
Another angle. Different launch. SpaceX.
That's right. Another noisy rocket launch tonight at 9:22. Over 5,000 Starlink satellites are in service.
Yeah.
It's
and
just hard to believe.
And he's Musk and SpaceX has got permission to launch another 10,000. Think
Where are
about
we gonna
that.
watch tonight?
Well, here's a good way to end one of your. We're going to watch it up at the VIP invited
Oh, the Hyatt place.
Hyatt at their
Yeah.
launch view, and all these gentlemen are invited to our pre-Shuttle Fest party at 7 to 9 at the wonderful Hyatt Place. Dana Lavoisier, the manager there, has treated us right since the beginning of this.
That's good.
There's
Okay,
somebody.
Al,
Everybody misses Uncle Al. That is an awesome photo showing his personality. Julian.
Al had a great personality. Was always talking to the press, the media, kids by the side of the road. And one quote from Al was, we were at an event, and this is when Elon was talking about Mars, and one of the reporters asked Al about colonizing Mars and getting all these people to Mars and getting back from Mars, and Al looked for a minute and just came up and said, you think we ought to get there first and get a couple of people back before we start planning on colonizing Mars? Great answer.
Yeah, great answer. Yeah, today's space people think it's a video game. I
Yes.
think half the time,
Yes.
and but they're going to be shocked when there's Chinese walking on the moon here in about 2 or 3 years,
Mhm.
because they're going,
Yeah.
and they say NASA's going, but anyway, Al passed away about 3 years ago, I think, and I was privileged to meet him. I'm sure, Kylie, you met him a few times,
Yeah, he was a
right?
good guy. We had a good
Yeah.
time together.
Yeah.
He was one of the stars of Space Fest in Arizona. He was, one of the most popular folks there. He was with you at breakfast, lunch.
Oh yeah, and he paid for
Yeah.
it. We had lunch, and I'm paying for it. It's just, how many people want to interview you, and you're buying them lunch? And
Uh-huh.
he says, I'll buy lunch.
That happened to me today with Marty.
There, yeah, Marty buying lunch there. And we thank Steve Nolte for being generous last night at dinner there. Steve, you're probably watching. You got a comment or question for these wonderful photographers? Shutterbugs is what we like to call each other. And I miss that magazine, Shutterbug, one of my favorite oversized photo magazines in there, all kinds of good tips.
That was
In
published
there,
down here, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
In there.
Yeah.
So you got a question? Let's have at it there. Let's go forward there with another picture there. Oh, Joe, we're going to talk about
Okay.
Joe. Back to Joe here. Joe, you are well known as a African safari photographer.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. And we
Well,
got some beautiful pictures like this, a couple here.
I gotta say, I probably have 500,000 images from Kenya and Botswana and South Africa.
How did you get involved with that?
When I went with a buddy of mine one year, and it was a bug. Went, absolutely loved it, and said I have to go back, and been back 15 times now.
Look at that gorgeous cat just looking at you.
Yeah.
Those eyes.
Yeah, we were searching for her for the better part of the afternoon, and then I saw her hanging out under a bush, and then she came out and climbed up this fallen tree and just sat right there for a few seconds.
Posing for you.
Yeah.
Man.
Nice.
Now you've got to become familiar with the tour guide, I guess, that takes you there.
Yeah.
Or you've
Yeah, I deal with an outfitter in Kenya
uh-huh.
and another outfitter in South Africa. And, I put together tours for people who are really interested in photography or in wildlife. This one here is from Botswana from last year.
Great use of black and white.
Yeah,
out
it looks spectacular in color, but I said, let me just try this, and I fell in love with it. So, this is shot with a 24mm lens,
You were close.
very close.
Wow.
Yeah, we were in a hide in a park called Mashatu,
A hide, you mean a shelter?
underground hide.
Underground.
Yeah.
They're
And,
serious about their photography out there.
Oh yeah, and it's open at ground level, so you basically sit on a stool with a small, I won't say desk, it's like a bench in front of you, and you lay your cameras out. And
Wait for
this was one of
it
the
to
few
happen.
times when there were only two there. We had times when the whole waterhole was surrounded by elephant,
Is that right?
as well as other animals. Yeah.
Where can we see more of your pictures, Joe?
Facebook is really about the only one. I'm
Joe Marino on Facebook.
Yeah, just Joe Marino. Look for the diver. That's me. There are a gazillion Joe Marinos
Okay.
out there. It's me holding a camera up to my face
Okay.
underwater. I do a lot of diving as well. So.
Well, Marty, we've got another. I mean, this excellent work is, some of the best of the business don't even have websites.
No, I don't.
That sell their good work all the time.
I don't have one either. I
So,
just rely on.
Yeah,
Facebook.
that's what I'm saying.
You don't
Nobody,
need one. Yeah.
yeah, and yet you're some of the best out there.
This was my last trip. We came across a cheetah with 4 cubs, and everyone was told to stay away. And so all these vehicles that were in the Masai Mara had to leave. And as we were leaving, the mother started leading the cubs up a hill. So I told my driver, I said, stop right here. And he said, why? I said, because that cheetah is going to sit right on that termite mound, right there. And she came up, made a beeline right for us, sat on the termite mound, and her 4 cubs started to play. And so this is 2 of them that were up on this small tree, dead
Wow.
tree.
What size lens you have there?
300.
Oh, just a 300. Okay.
They were right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking 600 or something like that.
No,
I'm sure Mark Usciak was wondering out there. Well, the pictures that you brought from your safari experiences there, and wow, just go to Joe Marino on Facebook and see more of these spectacular images on there. So, Tom Usciak, we're finally up to you and some of your little images here.
Well, this goes back to where it began for me. Julian's last shot was of Al Warden in a car. This shot is my first, and Al Warden sitting on top of a Saturn V. I was a college reporter, not a reporter, a photographer. I couldn't write a story to save my life. And I wanted to cover a launch. I did for my college. Uh, it was just amazing. I mean, for the first time, I don't know about these guys, but the first time you're at this place, especially when it was those kind of rockets, you know, you're looking and paying attention, studying things, and transfixed with stuff, and I got to take pictures. This is what I'm here for. And it's black and white because once I got back to Lancaster, I had to get this film processed practically immediately. And I when I turned it into the school, it was next day. It was deadline day, basically, and the newspaper went to press the next day. So I didn't really have any color, and I really didn't have any way of working with color at that time. You know, it was like anybody else. You didn't have a lot of professional labs and stuff like that around. So you basically take it to a camera store or something, send it off to Kodak or someone to get printed, and it would come back. And but this, I processed the film, and there you are. I mean, it was the negative was quite old. It had some nicks, damages to it, and my brother took it into Photoshop and just cleaned it up and restored it a little bit. And some of my shots in here, I believe every shot I have in here is film. There's no digital. I don't believe, but I don't think so.
Okay.
And as far as altering them, nothing was altered except film fades over time, changes over time. And my brother would bring stuff back to hopefully what it looked like the day it was taken, or very close to that. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of that as we went forward here.
Right, good. Classic shot, boy. Just think of how young you were and what
20,
lies ahead.
21.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're all young.
But this is one of your wonderful photographs that we're going to see it. This is in a book, the one on the left of J.L. Pickering and John Bisney.
It's actually in two books. It's
So excuse me for slighting you there.
Well,
Two books, okay.
yeah, the one that's in JL and John's book is the same sequence, but the rocket is a little bit lower on the tower. The one here, I got a call from National Geographic a couple of years ago. It was right around the time of the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11, and they were putting out a book called Apollo on the Moon. And what the book was artifacts, and that from the missions, the Apollo missions. And the reason they liked that and selected that picture had absolutely nothing to do with the rocket. It had nothing to do with the flame, the smoke, the rocket, anything. It had to do with, if you look toward the right side of the picture and you see the backs of people, look like they have something on their heads that have like a black circle behind it.
Yeah.
They were paper visors that RCA was distributing to members of the press as like sun visors. And so they had one, a real one that someone had, and they did a product type photograph of that. And then they wanted a picture of it in the field, and they found this somehow on, I don't know how they found it, to be honest with you, and got a hold of me and wanted to know if they could use it in that book. So that one there appears in the book.
Those paper visors I'm familiar with. The people just beside you in the white and the blue. There,
Right.
with the
Yeah,
hat,
the
which
lady
looks
with
like
the
a little
blue and
black
then in the
circle.
white have them on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That surprised me. I said, what's someone want with an Apollo 16 launch photo on the
You know those,
50th
Julian,
anniversary?
remember those
Yeah,
paper
well,
hats?
yes, they all gave them
Yeah,
out.
I tried to sell them for like $50 to $100 on eBay.
Well, after this, I went looking. I went in my house and I went
Find
through
some.
all my old stuff like that, hoping I'd find one. I wasn't successfully.
Well, we may have to send you a birthday present for all that you do for the museum one day.
This one,
Nice.
one of the things I liked about this one was we always made it a habit in the younger, in our early days. This was only our second, mission, and we wanted to get there early and get our spot. When we got there and set up, there was hardly anyone was there yet. There was one person down there by the water, but basically hardly anyone. And it was very, very still and quiet. And I was thinking, boy, this place is going to be alive in a few hours. And in the background, you could hear like hissing and venting of the rocket, and it was still a little hazy and that, and you can see the spotlight beams, the xenon lights going up there. It was just a very still and peaceful photograph, and it's shot on Kodachrome film and then scanned.
Tom, when you said we, is that you and Mark?
That would have been Mark, myself, and Steve.
Steve Nolte.
Steve
yeah.
Nolte, yeah.
Yeah, you see that graininess in there. That's an artifact of the film there, in there. But gorgeous shot, gorgeous, bathed in light there.
This is also a Kodachrome. The night before the launch of Apollo 16, just the sun. Now, I wanted to get one with the sunset, the sun ball still in it. But when that happened, the lights were not on yet. And the lights, they did not turn the xenon lights on until the sun was down below the horizon there. And then they start building them up from the bottom up. You know, they just didn't throw a switch and they all light up like that. They would come up and you could hear the generators going and everything like that. And they did that. Now, I did do a photo illustration where I didn't do it. My brother did it. Where I took one that was where the sun was still up, but the rocket was a total silhouette because there were no lights on it yet. And I took that one and put the two together as a photo illustration for me because I liked that shot. I didn't release it or use it for anything. I just have it to have it. You know, I wanted to see what it would look like, and Mark did a real good job on it.
Guys, that's a good point for the three of you to make a comment about photoshopping. After this total eclipse of the moon, there's been a lot of stupid pictures out there that say they're lunar, they're eclipse photos. They're not. I saw one over an ocean and all that. How could you see the ocean if it was totality? You all strike me as kind of what I call purists. You just want to mess with your contrast, your highlights, your sort of, that's all I do. What do you think about the state of photography where you can't trust anything that you see today?
Well, if you're a photojournalist shooting for a wire service or for media, newspapers, magazines, you're really not supposed to touch your imagery. So, and you're right. Yeah, I think the three of us are purists.
You have the basics, straighten, lighten, darken of an image, crop it, but not putting the moon in a place that the moon does not shine.
Yeah.
And the worst part of that is no disclaimer.
That's the problem.
That is the problem. I think as when we had lunch, we were talking about when we were all growing up, it was a photograph is worth 1,000 words. And my answer to that today is a photograph is worth 1,000 lawsuits. Because if you manipulate it enough and you see it all on television shows and reality shows, they are not real photographs or real people. And today's generation thinks if I can go ahead and manipulate it to do this, to make you feel better about it, is wrong. We don't do it. Somebody might say that photograph would be good if it was lighter and darker. It doesn't have to be. It is what it is. It's how we took it. Then you come on to Tom's stuff. He's seen it in his business in the lab of what people want him to do with a photograph.
Yeah. That's Tommy, your comment on today's everybody wanting to use multiple images and combine
it's a
10.
product, or it's a product of technology today. It's available. You know, you could watch TV at one time on a little black and white this big, or you can watch TV now on an 80 inch high definition monitor. It's the way things have gone. It should not be, if used right. Photoshop is a great tool. there's really nothing wrong with it. You can do, if you tell someone or you're assigned to create an image for whether it be publicity, whether it be just something that someone wants, and you tell them that it is a photo illustration and it's done digitally, and that's what they want, and that's how it's accepted, I don't have a problem with that. But it has no place in the spot news world. In the past, I've noticed that some magazines, I believe Life magazine, used to sell some of their famous photos, that matted and framed and everything like that, retouched, restored, and you could buy them like that. And some of them were news photos, but they weren't the news photo anymore. A news photo has a life. A photo illustration or a piece of art has a longer life as far as usefulness. A newspaper photo is looked at and absorbed in that and then put aside.
It usually has a 24-hour lifespan.
Right.
It's not news after 24 hours. It becomes whatever you want to make it, but the news has to be taken, processed in front of people's face for 24 hours. And some news agencies that I deal with in Europe will not take them after 25 hours. It is not, then they tell you to send it somewhere else. Another thing is, if you notice, 99% all of our photographs are taken this way. If you notice on social media sites, 25%
Or vertical.
are vertical. And you try to tell people if they, somebody says they want to take a photograph of you. I always say, what's important to the photograph is you. The sky is not of interest. Your feet are not interest.
Right.
So if you're holding it this way, that's what you're getting. If you turn it this way, you might end up with the stuff that really matters to the right and left of you, but you are in the center. And people want to argue, and you can see them if any event you go to a rock concert and everything, the cameras are always like this. And they're going like this when they take it, by the way, too. It's not the way to shoot it. You can't, the stuff I do for television stations, they keep sending disclaimers out to me, do not shoot them this way. We want them this way. For the people who don't know.
Horizontal, not
Yeah,
vertical.
horizontal, yeah.
Yeah. Horizontal.
Look back at Tom's photograph of that Apollo launch. If you had shot that vertically, you wouldn't have gotten those RCA
Right.
caps in.
Correct.
Yeah. Now there was a news reason to shoot vertical, and that's a 2-column picture.
Yes.
Took up less space than a big
Yes.
3-column
Yes.
picture. So that's why my vertical grip was one of my most important tools on
Correct.
there.
But
And a lot of headshots too.
I
of course.
think it's Reuters, I believe. If you shoot a basketball game for them, they do not want any portrait shots. They all want them as straight on.
Straight on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff there, guys. Thank you for your comments on today's state of technology. We've got Dave Stangy's watching. He and his wife Julie went to the beach. And Carlton says that this is the first for 20 flights of a Falcon 9 tonight, and those 9 Merlin engines there. Marty's handed me the group of people watching here today. We did give a shout out to Gary Gerald yet. I think he'll probably bring us some Vidalia onions, Marty, one day. Looking forward to that. Cliff Watson, who was on our show from Australia yesterday, he loved those Vidalia onions. He said they were so sweet, they don't have them in Australia. Cliff's running around here at the museum today. And let's look at the rest of Tommy's images here as we wind up a great show with 3 great photographers. Julian Leek's the best dressed of them all right there with the beautiful shirt on there. We got Joe Marino.
I'm the relaxed one.
You're relaxed today.
Custom made by my wife.
Yes, excellent there. And Tommy is the Ivy League Tommy today. Tom Usciak there. Okay. So those are some hell of a shots there, Tom.
Wow.
Yeah, and one's not a crop version of the other. And this is after the Challenger accident, and I was affiliated with a magazine called Final Frontier at the time. and all of a sudden there was a hiatus in launches after the accident. So I got a call and they're saying, we had launch pictures in our magazine, but there's not really much going on. So how would you like to do an Atlas Centaur launch? You know, it was AC-66, and that was in December of '86, I believe. And we just did it on remote. And one of the things I was always happy with how it came out was the fact that, again, I could see the top of the rocket there. And then the one on the right was one of the first. I would have liked to have done, and this is one of the drawbacks from film. I don't think you could get those kind of engine shots where they have all that detail in the flame in film that you did in digital, and still keep some of the extraneous ground equipment like I see in a lot of these shots. Because that ASA is I don't know what it's set at or anything, but I don't think I would have been successful, because I know what an underexposed negative would be, and we're underexposing everything except for the flame, and I was always curious how that would come out with film. What do you guys think? Think you could do those engine shots that everyone does today on film instead of digital?
No,
It would be tough.
I've sent a couple of engine shots in, and like you said, it's like it's a photo of the week. Let's get a photograph of the flame. And I had 2 editors send them back. It said it'd be nice to have a rocket. That was the last time we did an engine shot.
I love the vernier, the small little thrusters
Yeah.
on each side there. That really adds to that rocket shot there. Tom, let's get through your pictures here. We've been going on an hour and enjoying it here. There's the man, 93-year-old Buzz Aldrin.
Right.
Not 93 there, but
This was Buzz, 1999, at the 30th anniversary of Apollo 11 at KSC, and he was just really getting into his talk there. This was, well, in the back is the command module, command service module that's over there. So people that know that building have a pretty good idea where he was. And he was it was a Q&A session, and he was really getting into the question, explaining it. And I think he was getting too deep, you know, for the person that asked the question, as he was known to have done sometimes. But it was just really interesting to ask him. I was watching his hand gestures and that, and I just
great photo.
Grabbed a
Action
few
is
at
the
the right
magic
time.
word in people shots there.
He still likes to talk today, just as much.
The shot on the left we used for our Shuttle Fest 1, our inaugural Shuttle Fest last year, or 2 years ago.
I have a lot of people that say to me on this shot that the one on the right was manipulated. Neither one of them were manipulated. That was STS-5, sunset, and then that red sky. It just moved from that. Do you remember that, you guys, at all?
I do.
Yeah.
It started like that, and then it just went to that beautiful red sky. And apparently, and maybe you guys know or correct me if I'm wrong, but they told me that there was a volcano. It was ash in the air.
Ash in the air, yes.
Mount Pinatubo or
Yeah,
something,
yes.
was it? Or one of the volcanoes caused that. And that's one of those kind of shots you ever want to try and get again, but I was never able to capture a shot like that again.
One thing, as you know, in Florida, particularly with the weather, is if you see it, take it.
Yeah.
Don't wait 20 minutes or 10 seconds, or the light would change, the
Yeah,
clouds would
quickly.
change. You get it when you see it.
That's a good point. I can't tell you the numbers of times I have done a U-turn because I saw something and I said, I'll never see that again.
Right?
I remember a turtle that was over going out on the beach and covered with moss and on a, you're just like, I'm going to shoot that because I'll never ever see that again.
Yeah.
So emphasize that the be here now is what a photographer does.
Yeah, when you see it, take it.
Let's get to there's a classic shot.
That was
Tom.
That was sort of goes along with Julian's shot from his segment there. This was right at touchdown. The Columbia, and there's Deke Slayton there and his T-38 in the background. I envisioned this shot before I came down on assignment to do it. And I figured I just want one that's right on the money. And fortunately, there was a Pathfinder airplane that was ahead
Chase
of the
plane.
Yeah, well, it was a bigger plane. It was looking for weather. It was like a
Oh,
weather
I see.
plane.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think it was a DC-9, but I'm not positive anymore. But it came in and made an approach and landed, and I practiced on that because that was shot with a Hasselblad camera, and a Hasselblad is known for producing a sharp piece of film, but it's not a fast camera as far as like today's motor drives or even the motor drives on 35 millimeter back in those days. So it was like 2.5 frames a second. I just panned that, practiced with the plane before, gave it a shot. Got it.
Perfect. Got
Got
the
it.
smoke on the tires, Deke Slayton in the T-38, and the bird Columbia there that means so much to so many people around here.
Just some sort of, and again, we did some unmanned things too when these were both during the stand down after Challenger. They wanted to launch pictures. This is one of my favorites from the VAB roof, and I want to tell you guys, all the photographers here, the man you have to thank for opening up the VAB roof is Jay Honeycutt. Period.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, that place was, I mean, before that, you could go up there and set your cameras up, and they used to push a switch or step on a button or something like that, but you couldn't be up there.
Uh-huh.
Then you were also up there in case of RTLS.
Right.
So you would put your cameras there, and then I understand they would take you down, not all the way to the floor, but maybe halfway down or so, until it was safe, and then you could go back up and get and recover your stuff. But if there was an RTLS, you could go up there and get your cameras and go get in position for a landing on either end of the runway. But from then on, I mean, well, before that actually, but Jay opened that up for the photographers.
Cheers to Jay Honeycutt, good friend of our museum, and has done several shows. He's working on one now of A Brief History of Space, Human Space Flight by Jay Honeycutt. And I will try to effort you getting with him and Mark someday when that works out there.
To get the photographs, we have to have access.
Uh-huh.
It's no good saying this is the spot, and you're, like we said earlier, looking straight into the sunshine. Has somebody gone and checked the site out? Ken Thornsley always went out and checked where the sun would be, what's a shot. Today, somebody says this is where you take the photograph. If you don't like it, leave.
Yeah.
It's not the answer. It's a cooperation between the media, NASA, the contractors, and the favorite thing is no. But no reason for no, just you can't do it.
And this is some of the frustrations that you all are having today with a new generation of people that don't understand some of the fact that this is a very disciplined and scientific endeavor, photography.
It's
You
not
have
a
to be at the
reality.
right place at the right time.
It's
and
not
with
a
the right-
reality show.
Yeah,
And so if we miss it, it's not documented.
right.
To say you can get a photograph from here, no. I get people saying, I got photographs, you can use them all the time. I cannot use any photograph, but I put my name to, but I can't certify that I took it.
There you go. Thanks, Julian. Tom, this is two awesome photographs. What are
Two
they?
finales. Well, actually, that is the finale of the Saturn V. That was launching the Skylab workshop. The one on the right was the last launch in the Skylab program, Saturn 1B on the pedestal, but it was not the final launch of the Saturn 1B. ASTP a year and a half later was, and that wraps up everything that was the end of the Saturns. But I still say, to me, I still, you know, if you give me a preference between the SLS and the Saturn V, I have to say I'd still take the Saturn V.
I'll take the Saturn V. There's nothing like a Saturn V.
All right. Coming to
Starship.
the
Well,
Tom, you got the
Starship, yeah.
privilege to
Starship,
go
yes,
to
yes.
Russia and do a shot of.
Well, actually, Joe Marino here and I were over there at the same time for that. We tagged up over there a little bit. The top shot was what we call today or a walkout, and it's a little different. They come out and there's 3 blocks on the ground, painted squares, and they stand. Each one, it's marked who stands in what. The commander is in the middle. And the other 2 guys are on either side of him, and then they meet this, whatever his rank and position is. He's in a military uniform, so I'm sure it's pretty high up. They say something, and then they get on a bus. It looks like a tour bus or a passenger bus, and not the vans like we had over here. And they drive out to the launch pad. Now, the bottom shot was the launch take. That's with like a 300 millimeter lens. And I'd say we were what, Joe? Maybe a mile and a half away? Mile away?
Yeah, about a mile away.
Not far.
Yeah.
Because the sound came on really quick. I mean, I was hearing it right about there, whereas here, the shuttle and whatever's going is up and a while and away, and you just start to hear it. But so we were a lot closer. In fact, the quarters that I was staying in at Baikonur was closer to the launch pad than the press site is at Kennedy.
My gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about that with Mike Baker, astronaut, who was the liaison out there for 5 or 6 years. And Joe, they don't care about the weather. They're going to launch.
They're
right?
going. They're going. Yeah.
Yeah.
I happen to be lucky. I've been out there twice, and both times pristine conditions though. And the second time actually was a lot warmer than this time, because we were about minus 30
Yeah.
when that thing launched.
Tom's been on the show before and talked about he couldn't focus because the camera grease.
The
was
camera
Oh, it was
lubrication
freezing.
grease
Everything was frozen.
was
Wow.
frozen. I couldn't turn the lens on my Hasselblad lenses, so I ended up doing a lot of things in 35 millimeter with autofocus motors that happened to work that I couldn't do with the manual camera.
And I think I talked to Daniel DeYoung, who I'm looking forward to seeing. He said he was at a launch that it was so hot that the asphalt in his feet were making an impression in the asphalt.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's a crazy place, it sounds like, Kazakhstan, huh?
It's a throwback to the old world, but
The old world.
it's really a phenomenal place. A lot of history there as well. I mean,
Yeah.
Sadly, you can't get the access to the Moran building right now because the roof caved in.
Right, yeah.
But
We had a great show on that with, who did the Buren? Gary Allgaier. Gary Allgaier did that. Well, we got a few more shots here. We're glad everybody's hanging in there with this extra long show with these extra awesome photographers. There's a shot that you were talking about. You were in the wrong place to see the launch because of the cloud, but once it got out of the cloud.
What I was hoping for on this, I'll be real quick on this. This is with a normal lens on a Hasselblad camera. I wanted to use a longer lens, a 150 millimeter lens, and try and get it going up the tower where I could see both plumes from the solid straight down. But believe it or not, a friend, one of the guys that I was with, kept saying, no. He said, I have a bad feeling of that with the steam cloud. Let's do it with the 80. And we went back and forth. I said, all right. I gave in and said, okay, we'll do it with the 80. And I'm so glad we did. That's Bob Preston. He was replacing Steve on that trip, and he said, let's go with the 80, and I'm glad we did. Later on down the road, because again, it was the way the wind was blowing, later on down the road, we kept trying with a 150. Finally, I got it where it's coming straight up, and you can see both boosters and that. And then I said, that's it. I'm not going to try this again. It'd be,
I believe that copy's in
no
Karan
reason to.
Conklin, our executive director's office that you gave us, that you all signed it.
That photograph won Photo of the Year back in with the National Aviation and Space Writers Association.
Is that right?
That was Space Photo of the Year. Yeah.
All right. Well, what color was the ribbon?
Blue.
Blue. But was there a green check with that?
No.
Oh, okay.
You know how it is.
Yeah, I do. That's why I asked you what color ribbon.
Bragging rights. Your brother didn't get that shot.
There's a hell of a shot
Pretty
off
one.
the VAB.
Off the VAB,
Never be able to do that again.
800. noticed the boats out there. They
Yeah.
had a good view.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when I showed this to people years and years ago, that is 41G Challenger. I think that was the last time Challenger landed at KSC. And it made the first landing at KSC, and this was its finale. But a lot of people say, "How did you get into? Are you in an airplane flying beside them?" I said, "I don't think so. No, I don't think I'd be able to keep up."
Right.
I said, "No, that is from the roof of the assembly building with an 800mm lens."
Sharp as a tack.
And
too.
people don't realize just how big the VAB is. We have been up there at times that we are in the clouds.
Yes.
The,
Right.
the clouds are below us, and a few times it's been blue sky above us, but you've got that cloud right around you. Real
That's
weird
amazing.
feeling.
Great stories. Good stuff today we've been hearing from these guys. Mark, we got this collage, or Tom, and then one more after this.
Okay. Well, this was a mission, a CS-95 with John Glenn, and to me, that was probably the most activity and just good things happening of any launch. I think it was more exciting than STS-1 because when John Glenn flew for the first time, I was in 4th grade. So, and if you would have said to me back then, someday you're gonna get to take pictures of John Glenn going into space, I'd say what, but there's the walkout, there's the wide view there at the bottom. I just wanted to show how full that press site was that day. That it was really not a news-grabbing mission if he wasn't on it.
Correct.
And at that point in the program, I would say there used to be maybe 300, maybe 350 press at a launch, with a payload and a mission like that. You put him in the mix, and it went over 3,000. And it was just, I mean, you saw people there that I hadn't seen in years, since back to the beginning of the program. You had astronauts there, you had celebrities there. Jimmy Buffett was there, Ted Williams was there. It was just everybody seemed to be having a good time. In addition to getting the work done, the remote there was a Hasselblad, and one of my favorite spots for Pad B. And I just wish, I mean, don't you wish they'd give us that back
Yes.
for
Yep.
Artemis?
Yes.
That was the site we used to
parking lot.
call the parking lot, and but by far I have many shots of launches from that site, daytime, nighttime, morning, afternoon. It was just one of my favorite Pad B sites.
Was 95 postponed any, or did it go?
No,
Went on time.
It went on time.
Okay, yeah. Well, I see Kurt Brown's happy to get it off. He's the commander. Kurt Brown, probably the only person that had enough of John Glenn and publicity, because I know famously said there's 6 other astronauts on this flight too, that we're making there. So, guys, I'm going to show one more wonderful image and come back on set here to say goodbye to everybody. An awesome shot of the bird on the pad there at night as I weasel my way in here.
Well, that's Discovery. It's 95. It's just I always was impressed with that. That was when we were out at this photo opportunity like this. That is when we were a smorgasbord for mosquitoes.
Oh,
It
right.
always seemed to be mosquito land. I mean, I'd come back with bites all over me.
Yeah, we're getting back into that season, but great stuff there. All three of you guys. Any other memories about that?
They don't call it Mosquito Lagoon for nothing.
That's right.
I do have one memory
Yeah,
about
yeah.
95, because
Okay.
I was not there. I was in Kenya.
Okay.
And the day after that happened, we were talking about, I wonder if they launched John Glenn, because we were out in the middle of nowhere. And of course, in those days, the only way of communicating was by satellite phone. So my guide was in the vehicle, and my buddy Bill and I were talking about the Space Center, the John Glenn launch or whatever. And my guide turned around and said, I heard that they launched some old man into space yesterday. And then right after that, he said, I think that you guys also sent somebody to the moon once.
Yeah.
We said, yeah, it was a bit more than once. But
That's a good story. In Kenya for that at the time there.
Yes.
So, well, guys, this has been great. We know that people got a lot out of it. Julian, you're welcome to come back and share some more of your
Thank you.
wonderful images on there. We've been trying to get you in here for a while. Joe, same way with you.
thank you.
Get the moon in some of those safari shots, and I'll legitimize it as a Stay Curious space program.
That's
But,
already been done.
it's already been done on there.
That
yeah.
and the
And
Milky Way.
oh yeah, I want to see your. I'm going to go to your Facebook site
Yeah.
and see some of those on there. We got Chris Calley in the house here too.
Yes,
Just
sir.
wanted to brag about our great friend Chris and one of his beautiful pieces of art on canvas that is going to the moon tree. Is that what that's all about, Chris?
Yeah, it's a painting that we're getting signed, and eventually we're gonna auction it off to raise funds for Rosemary Russo's Moon Tree Foundation.
Well, it's signed and ready to go.
All right.
And there's hardly any room left on there, but thank you, Chris, for being here. Tom's here and Chris Calley's here because of Shuttle Fest, and we appreciate them supporting that. And hope that you can come and take some pictures of it tomorrow. You're all welcome to come up to our reception tonight at 7 to 9 at the Hyatt Place in
I'll be at the Space Center.
Titusville. You're going to be
I'll
doing
be
the
up the
launch
site.
tonight
Yeah.
up there. So, yeah, perfect weather. Should be a 9:22
Mm-hmm.
Starlink launch. And we're going to see it from the Hyatt Place up there after a little foray up there. So, everybody, thank you so much for watching Stay Curious. We're celebrating the, what is this? The 47th launch of 47 years ago STS-1. Think about that. Yep, 47 years ago. 1981 is 47 years ago.
How did that happen?
I don't know.
1981.
But we were there.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
No, 1981. What am I thinking? 40,
Yeah.
41 to 43.
43 years
43.
ago. 43 years ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a little ahead of myself. But
Yeah.
the great Bob Crippen,
Mhm.
and of course John Young with kahunas the size of elephant kahunas, probably.
Probably.
Yeah, right in there to do that launch on there. So I'm going to post a little thing about Facebook, but we're so busy with Shuttle Fest. We thank everyone for taking their time. Thank you guys. Any parting
Thank you.
shots?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. Pretty much my days of an active shooter are in the past, but I just want to say that one of the best times of my life was being able to come down here and get to know these two and many, many others out there. And it's just been a great ride for me.
Well said, Tom.
Yeah,
Indeed.
it's all been wonderful because we are part of history now.
Yeah, you absolutely are.
We took the
And
photographs and they've come out and we are history.
you've recorded history.
We
You've
recorded-
preserved history,
yeah,
just
very
like our
much.
museum
Yes.
does.
Yeah.
So, guys, thanks a lot. Everybody, Marty, thank you for a great Streamlabs promotion there. We've got Julian's wife, Jean, in here, and the awesome Chris Calley is in here. He was chauffeured here by Marty today, so and from Connecticut, and we do appreciate that. So, guys, I said that we're going to take us out here a special way. All of you, thank you very much for staying curious this week, and I'll be back in the saddle more than ever next week with doing our regular shows about the shuttles of the month and astronaut birthdays and all the like after we cover from Shuttle Fest 3. What a great program we have scheduled if you're locally there. It's just $20 to get in. And John David Bartow is going to talk about Astro 1 and 2. And they've got some great information on the Centaur that was going to be in the shuttle payload bay that nobody wanted. So anyway.
The Death Star.
That's right. So, guys, thanks a lot. And I told them all to help me take us out with saying, I'm Mark Marquette, and we can't wait to see you again to Bridge the Space Between Us. Thank y'all.
Thank you.